So I'm Krati Maheshwari. I studied at IIT School of Architecture, Jaipur from the batch 2020. And this year in GATE 2022, I got the rank score was 878. I started my preparation in October. That gave me around 4.5 months of preparation. And I feel like if you are needed, then 4 months are actually enough whole course. But it's not just about covering the course once. It's more about revision, how much you revise what, right? Because something that I've studied in last 2 months, I may not remember it now, some subject. So you have to account for the time that you would take in revision, and very important. So I divided my time like that. I gave, there are like 7-8 subjects, subparts of what the course is. So I divided my time into that different subjects, and I set a target. For example, I 10 days, or I would study history for 15 days. And I studied it like that. And I did a lot of mock tests that were provided by Career Revenues. And how I did it was, when I completed a particular subject, I would do the mock test for that subject to know how far I am in that subject, how much I know. And that really helped me. And after doing the mock test and after all the course, another round for some revision, because there are things that you tend to forget. There are formulas, and the course is very information based. So there's not a chance that you would remember everything. I think revision is very important, and obviously solving mock tests and doing old question papers is very important. Again, there is this thing where there would be 100 people studying at your institution and doing the same as me, right? So what would give me the edge? I'm studying the same things as other people are. So what I tend to do is, suppose I'm seeing a question and there's an MCQ options in that, and I know that, okay, this one is correct, but I don't know about what the other 3 options are, right? But they are closely related to what we are studying. So I would search those 3 options to know what they actually are. So that would increase my knowledge about the subject as a whole. So I tend to do that. And because there are some things in books, like your books are very concise and precise, and I like the content, okay, but there would be some topics that just a name is mentioned. So I would search that separately, and I liked that way of going about things. This was actually my second attempt for GATE. In the first attempt of 2021, I got a rank of 116. I had studied a bit for that, but I felt like I could do better if I studied. So I thought about just doing my job and studying alongside with it. So initially I thought that I would start preparing in like April or May, and I would for an hour or two, and it would get me by. And that could have been true. But the thing is that I procrastinated a lot, and it was September and I had not touched my books. So I decided to take a break from the job and just focus on the preparation. So I would say that either of the option that you take, whether you do it with your job or whether you do it in the last 2-3 months left, you just have to set a target. You have to put in the time and effort and cover the whole course and study each and everything, and that would get you by. Shouldn't have been, because the course was exactly the same. We had to study the same things. So basically for 2 months, I didn't know that this was I was referring to the Career Revenues books at that time, and I hadn't touched the, the whole paper that you solve that has all the sections and all. So I hadn't touched that by that time. So I was just studying the books and solving the mock test. And later I realized, oh, there are 2 sections. But by that time I had studied everything. So while solving the paper, I sort of knew that, okay, I'm better at architecture than planning, but I had studied it. study all of it, and then during revision and during later times, you can figure out which part that you want to attempt. But architecture in the common part, I don't feel that it is very architecture can just come in the common part. So I think you should study all of it and later decide which thing you're good at. So don't decide it preemptively that I'm going to attend this section, but also don't decide it in the paper that I'm going to attend this section and wait. I would say that numericals are a very good part to actually score on, because there's no negative marking. You're getting 2 marks for something that is very formula based, and that's not that difficult. It's pretty easy or medium level. And if you study for numericals, it's actually very scoring. And if you attempt more numericals correctly, you have the chance to actually attempt more MCQs also, that okay, I can take a bit of risk here because these are the questions that in numericals that I've done correctly. Okay, so there is this psychology in paper that I tend to apply. I would just secure marks in numericals and then I would see the MCQs. And also something that is very information based, and the course, as I said, is very vast. You can't rely on that you would know the answer to an MCQ or to multi-select questions. But numericals in GATE, as I've seen in the previous papers, are pretty repetitive, I would say. At least 70% of the numericals you would have seen in some way or the other. There's PERT CPM that would always be there. There's hydraulic radius. So there are some questions that repeat themselves, and it's better to do them and prepare for them. So at least allot that time and stick to that time, that I would take only this much time for this subject, so that you can be a little regular about your studies. So if I allot subject and I know that I'm at the 18th day, I won't, I would be regular about it. I would study more, and I won't count the hours that it is taking me to study, right? I have a goal to achieve, so I would complete allotted a particular time for that subject. The hours don't matter. I think it would be, you just have to set a goal towards it instead of restricting yourself to, okay, I'll just study 3 hours or 4 hours or whatever. So good at something, I may be good at this particular subject that another person takes more time than me. So there's no point in telling that, okay, you study structure for 3 hours per day. There's no sense in that. It's basically based person to person.
Okay.
So you have to decide. While preparing, I would do all the panic before and after the exam. 2 days before the exam, I would think, okay, which subject should I revise, or what is left, which formula should I revise again. But during the paper, I try to stay pretty calm so that I can recollect things that I have studied, because I don't want that, okay, I have studied this and I still don't know. Some things that you have not studied and they come in the paper and then you can't do them, it's okay. But if you know something and then you can't attempt that, it feels really bad. So I try to stay calm during that. And I do all the panic before and after the exam. Before it's like what to study, and after it's like, I don't know how the paper went. Let's just see. Vision is the first point, because even if you have less time, just allot some time to revision, because if you have studied so much and then you don't revise, it just goes to waste. I feel like you'll just remember 50 or 70% of it. There's no use. Second, you have to, the books are very precise and they're very, the content is very nice, but you have to look beyond the content. You can see refer to the content and search it more for your own knowledge. You have to have that curiosity. Okay, what does that word mean? So you have to have that curiosity. Thirdly, I would say that once you study something, like I suppose I studied something for 4 hours today, then I would just take 5 hours of peace and just think about what I have studied. And I would just revise it in my head, that what I studied today. And it just really helps me to just recollect things. I would say that. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. And yeah, the fourth point I would say, sometimes if you don't feel like studying, sometimes it's like okay, I don't feel like studying something very heavy, then just do general aptitude or something. Don't waste your time. I think general aptitude is a pretty scoring part, and you should know all the formulas. You don't have to delve into it too much, but you should actually study it and not leave it altogether.
Okay.
And that's natural that, okay, I'm just like 50 or 60% sure of this question. But again, as I said, if I attempt numericals and I know that they're going to be right, then I can take some risk on MCQs, right? So I think if you are feeling like taking a little bit of risk, you should, because the reward is. So I tend to, if you have studied, then I won't say that just attempt a question like that only. But if you are feeling a bit confident, or even if you're like 50-60% sure, I think you should attempt it, because other questions that you have done right would cover it if it's wrong. That are just positive marks or 0 marks. So I think the negative marking is not that much, and you should take a little bit of risk while attempting. Sometimes people would study more and they would get really scared and they would. I don't think that helps at all.